I would hope that you would support this amendment, which I think is very fair, and also support the money that they're getting after the amendment. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Norris. Anybody else wish to be recognized? As Councilman Allen says, we've got to set a high standard.
Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councilman Smith, you wish to be recognized?
Is this would be a yearly payment or to reapply every year?
Well, it's an annual appropriation, so it's not recurring. It's you have to apply and go through the budget process every year.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you for that clarification.
You're very welcome. Anybody else have any questions about this amendment? Are you ready to vote on the amendment to the amendment? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Garrett?
Aye.
Mr. Richmond?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Holloman?
Aye.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Henley?
Aye.
Ms. Streetman?
Aye.
Mr. Norris?
Aye.
Mr. Burkhart? Mayor Pitts?
Aye.
13 yes.
Amendment is adopted. So I would assume that we are now back on we're now on Councilman Allen's amended amendment. How's that?
Right.
His amendment as amended. Thank you, Mr.
Motion for
Baker.
approval.
And we've got that before us. And so any final words from anybody?
I just want to thank you, Mayor, for your work in looking at this budget and going through it and coming up with something we all can live with.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Given the economic environment we're in, ladies and gentlemen, it's a tough thing to be able to balance this budget, given our revenues and the uncertainty of what the state is going to do to us next fiscal year. Nevertheless, if we're going to call ourselves the number one city, best city to live in the United States, let's act like it. And so we are pleased to do that. Anybody else? All right, are you
I'd
ready
just like
to vote?
to say thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Are you ready to vote on this amended amendment?
Yes.
Take the vote, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Garrett?
Aye.
Mr. Richmond?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Holloman?
Aye.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Henley?
Aye.
Ms. Streetman?
Aye.
Mr. Norris?
Aye.
Mr. Burkhart? Mayor Pitts?
Aye.
13 yes.
Amendment is adopted. Any other amendments for Ordinance 90? Seeing none, any questions about Ordinance 90 as amended? Hearing none, are you ready to vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Garrett?
Aye.
Mr. Richmond?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Mr. Chandler?
Aye.
Ms. Guzman? Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Holloman?
Aye.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Henley?
Aye.
Ms. Streetman?
Aye.
Mr. Norris?
Aye.
Mr. Burkhart?
Aye.
Mayor Pitts?
Aye.
13 yes.
Ordinance 90 as amended is adopted. First reading. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, let me say a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank Lori Matta, our Chief Financial Officer, Deborah Johnson, our Finance Director, and the hardworking folks in the Finance and Revenue Office for helping us put this budget together. It is a laborious task, takes a lot of time, and I want to say publicly thank them for that. I also want to say thank you to Amy Wilson and her IT staff, Trey in the back. Wave your hand, Trey. All right. For their work in helping us to execute a closed captioning for the first time of this council meeting in order to accommodate those in our community who are hearing impaired. So we are pleased to be able to do that. So I would need a motion to adjourn. Without objection, we're adjourned.